A while ago, I was dating this dude, and after a couple of months of dating, he was ready for me to meet his family. When I go to meet him at his house, his brother opens the door, and he is standing there in nothing but his underwear. So I asked him, was his brother at home yet? And he said, no, I'm the only one that's here. I said, okay, no problem. I'll just sit in my car and wait for him to come. When I turned around to leave, he grabbed my hand and he said, no, that won't be necessary. He said, you should just come in here and have some wine with me. I accepted his offer and I followed him into the house. For a while, we was just sitting there talking and laughing and just having a good time. He kept putting his hand on my thighs and he kept rubbing his hand up and down my leg. But I didn't think nothing of it because I was still having a good time. He stopped and he looked at me. Then he said, you are so beautiful. I want to make love to you right here, right now. And I don't care if you're my brother's girlfriend. So I got up and I walked towards the front door. As soon as I opened the front door, I seen my boyfriend and his parents waiting for me. My boyfriend hugs me and he says this was all a test to see if you were faithful. I put on a fake smile because I was so relieved. Good thing I keep my condoms in my car. So my grandfather was telling me a story about him and his wife and how they used to go to the state fair every year. And I guess the state fair had a helicopter ride. Because every time they went, my grandfather would ask his wife, could he get on the helicopter ride? His wife would always say, we can't get on that helicopter ride because that helicopter ride is $60. And $60 is $60. So next year came and they went to the state fair again. And again, my grandfather asked his wife to ride the helicopter ride. He said, honey, I am 75 years old now, and if I don't ride that helicopter, I might not ever get a chance to. And again, his wife told him no because the helicopter ride costs $60, and $60 is $60. So this time the pilot overheard them. He said, I'll make y'all a deal. I'll give both of you a ride. He said, if you can be quiet the whole ride and don't say a word, then I won't charge you a dime. But if you say one word, then it's $60. My grandfather and his wife finally agreed and they got into the helicopter. The pilot did all types of tricks and still my grandfather and his wife never said a word. He even did his daredevil move over and over again, but still no one said a word. When they landed, the pilot looked at my grandfather and he said, wow, I did everything I could to get y'all to yell and y'all never said a thing. I'm very impressed. My grandfather said, well, to tell you the truth, I almost said something when my wife fell out. But you know, $60 is $60. So my auntie had this parrot and she named her parrot Polly. Polly was a beautiful parrot and my auntie said she went to the pet store one day and she saw that Polly was on sale just for $40. She asked the pet store owner why was Polly on sale. At first the pet store owner didn't want to tell her the reason why the parrot was on sale. Then he looked at my aunt and he finally said, look, this bird used to live in a house of prostitution. Sometimes this parrot got a real potty mouth. After he told my aunt the reason, she started having second thoughts about buying the parrot. But Polly was so beautiful, she wanted to buy the bird anyways. So she took Polly home and she hung the bird cage up in her living room. After she hung Polly up, she sat there in the living room and waited for Polly to say something. About 10 minutes later, the parrot looked around the room and then the parrot looked at my auntie and she said, new house, new madam. My auntie was shocked at first, and then she thought about taking the bird back to the pet store. But then she thought to herself, this is not so bad. And then my aunt's two teenage daughters came home from school. Now Polly saw the girls and she said, new house, new madam, new girls. My aunt daughters started laughing. They thought the parrot was really cool. My aunt started to explain to her daughters where Polly was raised, and they all just busted out laughing. An hour later, my aunt's husband Joe came home from work. Polly the parrot looked at him and she said, hi Joe. I remember when I was 15 years old and my parents left me home alone because they went out on a date. It was cold and snowing outside and I was watching the news, and on the news it said a psycho killer was on the loose. The news reporters warned everybody to lock their doors and windows. Apparently the psycho killer had escaped from prison. I went around the house making sure all the doors and all the windows were locked. Y'all, I was scared for my life. I'm not gonna lie. I called and asked my friend could she come over and keep me company, but her parents told her she couldn't. couldn't because it was snowing outside. And there was also a killer on the loose. But anyways, I had a guard dog named Brandon, and he would sleep in my room every night. He would sleep under my bed while I hung my hand down so he can lick on it until I fall asleep. After I locked all the doors and all the windows, I went upstairs and I got in my bed and I hung my hand down so my dog Brandon can lick on it. But while Brandon was licking my hand, I kept hearing this dripping noise like water was dripping from a sink. So I got up out the bed and I went towards the kitchen to see if the water was dripping from the kitchen sink. But it wasn't no water dripping from the kitchen sink. So I went back upstairs and I lay down and my dog Brandon started licking my hand again. I kept hearing a dripping sound, so I went towards the bathroom. I checked the bathroom sink and it was fine, but I found out the dripping was coming from the shower. I pulled the shower's curtain back and I seen my dead dog Brandon dripping blood. And I seen on the wall written in Brandon's blood, it said, "Humans can lick too."